Thank you so much for letting me interview you about growing up in East Knoxville. Can we start by talking about 5 points?
Okay.
What I see that you're wearing a shirt that says 5 points up.
Yes, the shirt was passed out maybe a month ago when they had the 5 points. There's an organization called 5 Points, and they sponsor it twice a year now, I think, community cleanup.
Okay.
And I think they've had 3 so far. So I always go and participate in that, so that's how I came across this T-shirt. And it's very comfortable. This is a casual day.
Yes, yeah. And here we are at Gigi's Piece by Piece,
Yes.
just having a lazy Saturday morning.
That's right. Well, I grew up in the 5 Points area, not just a few blocks from what is considered 5 Points. And I was actually born. I was born at home and not in a hospital. So I was born just a few blocks from what is considered 5 Points.
Okay.
So that's my area.
Uh-huh.
And I went to elementary school just a block or 2 from, before there was a reconfiguration of the traffic pattern there. You had a intersection of 5 streets that came together there. Ben Hare, East Vine Avenue, McCullough, they all merged together. That's how you come up with the 5 points there. So I went to Eastport Elementary School, and right now that is a senior center for housing. It's very nice, and that whole area is being redeveloped. The Walter P. Teller Homes Redevelopment Project that's going on right now. So I grew up right in that area.
So McCullough, Vine, what was the other street?
Ben Hare.
Ben Hare.
Yeah, Ben Hare.
Okay. And are there 2 more streets, or make it up?
Well, you had East Vine Avenue, which we kept going. It became McCullough. And so you had McCullough, Vine, Ben Hare. There was 1 or 2 other streets that converged in there.
Yeah.
I can't tell you right now. So.
Yeah, that's okay. So you went to school there. You were born at home. So what was that neighborhood called when you were?
The neighborhood that I grew up in, I guess we would be a part of Park City.
Okay.
Yeah, we would be a part of, and where I was born and raised, the name was changed to Martin Luther King, but it was East Vine Avenue.
Okay.
And I think that street name changed around sometime in the mid-70s, if I'm not mistaken. Where I lived, it changed due to the urban renewal that took place. So our house was taken, and all of the houses around us were taken in what is now Hardy Park.
Okay.
That was our front yard and our backyard.
Okay.
So whenever I go to Hardy Park, I tell people, well, I'm at home. I can't get any more at home.
Yeah.
And across the street there in the Tabernacle Baptist Church's parking lot, I was born in a house over there, and all of those houses
are gone. So when they were torn down, did you? What does that mean? Like, did they buy the property from the owners?
Well, what happened in our property that we had, my grandparents had purchased that property in 1932, and we moved in 1966 to Burlington. And there was a gentleman, Mr. Alonzo Baylor, who purchased that property from us. I really don't know why he purchased it, because he knew that urban renewal was planning to come through there and take all of those houses, but he did buy it. And then I think, I guess he sold it to what is now KCDC.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I guess he made something because he dabbled in real estate. And he
Oh,
he
okay.
was a mailman. He worked for the post office.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So
Huh.
that was how that went.
Uh-huh. So is that the process that other homeowners
Yeah,
experience?
same thing.
Okay.
The city, they gave people, well, I don't think they got equal value of what they would get.
Mm-hmm.
But they just had it on the market.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the city coming through and buying a property, and you said, we're going to redo this whole area. You're not going to have, you're not going to get what you normally would get.
Yeah.
It's the normal process of selling homes. So the whole little area there was all just done away with.
Yeah.
So I still have problems with that today.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you put there was a park. And for a long time, the park wasn't even there.
Yeah.
You just demolished the houses.
Yeah.
So, we had a nice house, nothing fancy. But we had a nice two-story house with a nice backyard and a nice front yard.
Yeah.
So it was just a working class area.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy.
It sounds like it was certainly someplace people were sad to see go the way that it went.
That took place all the way from downtown, maybe around Central Avenue, and going east. So a lot of private homes, churches, and businesses. And some of those churches and some of the businesses never recovered. I mean, that was just the end of it.
Yeah.
Some moved and shifted further east. So then you have, as African Americans are moving east, then you had white flight. And so that's how you have a large population in East Knoxville today, because of the situation with the urban renewal. Some people refer to it as Negro removal.
Yeah. I think there's an exhibit at the East Tennessee History Center right now called Gentrification by Removal.
Oh, I would like to see it. I don't think I have seen it.
Yeah, one of my colleagues at UT had a master's degree student who I think curated the exhibit. She did some research on the transition from, I guess, tenements or slums as they called them, to the Coliseum and other things that have since replaced it.
Let me say, because I was interviewed once by, I think, a student at UT about this same subject. Now, part of the Urban Renewal Project, it did include some quote-unquote slum areas, but all of it did not. And this is what we have to remember, because some of it was a good thing, because you're taking down some quote-unquote slum areas, but the entire area was not. You took down some houses that were very good housing stock. So it was a mixture. There's a mixture in there. So, but I like to see that display at the History Center. Is it down on the first floor?
I think it is on the first floor. I haven't seen it myself.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
Not yet. My colleague told me about it, and it's something that I am meaning to do.
Well, I'll have to go up there and see it.
Yeah, maybe we can go together.
Okay.
That would be fun. So then is it hard to remember what it was like growing up in 5 Points without these landmarks?
I mean, no, because this all happened when I was an adult.
Okay.
So it's not hard to remember at all.
Okay.
No.
But for those of us wanting to see that history, it requires some imagination.
It requires imagination, but there are some pictures somewhere, and I think Mr. Robert Booker has a couple of books, and he has a new one coming out that probably would include some pictures. And there's also at the Knoxville Transit Center. Up on the wall, there are some pictures of pre-urban renewal. So there are some pictures around, probably at the History Center as well, of what some of the houses, some of the churches, some of the businesses looked like. So, but as I say, a lot of these businesses did not recover. Once they had to relocate and move, that was it. They were done. But those things happen all across the country. Knoxville is not unique in that respect, because you had the same thing happen in Nashville, other cities. And at the time of these decisions were being made, you didn't really have input from the black community, because you didn't have anybody on city council. So you had, in Knoxville, there was a 70-year gap between black participation on city council. Theodis Robinson was elected, I believe, in 1969. So you have to go back 70 years when you did have some African Americans on city council and on the, I guess it's called the old county court, which became the county commission. So, but as I say, it's not a thing in a southeastern city or even anywhere in the country in terms of quote-unquote urban renewal and the effect it's had on African-American communities. It's all over, north, south, east, and west. So it's not an unusual thing that happened. And I guess our task is to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And if it does, it's done in a way that would benefit the community long term rather than hurt it.
So as you know, I'm interested in the histories of people who have lived in Park City or Parkridge. So I understand that Park City is a much larger umbrella than Parkridge.
I guess it depends on what the geographical boundaries are of Park City, and it's interesting to note. I really don't know how we got these parks in there. I guess there's some.
Oh, do you know what I heard? I don't know if this is true, but I heard that the name Park City came from. I'm sorry, Park Ridge came from the Chilhowie Park on one side and the Smokies Park on the other side.
That could be.
So it's like a bridge between the two. But I don't know if there's any truth. There are lots of tales.
The Smokies played at Bill Meyer Stadium, and I don't know. You know, when you get into history, you have to go all the way back to when the Smokies actually started and where did they play, because they may have played somewhere other than Bill Meyer Stadium, you know, when in their history. So I don't know where their history began with that. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to look that up, I guess.
Yeah. What was it like going to? Well, what was it like growing up in Park City?
Well, it was okay. It was fine, because at that time when I grew up, you know, you're growing up in a segregated environment. The school was segregated. Most of the people in the community were African Americans, although we had some white neighbors across the street and at one time next door. And those neighbors were, this is a time before we had legal liquor stores in Knoxville. That did not happen here until about 1961. And so we had, our neighbors were, they used the term bootleggers, people that sold liquor.
Okay.
And one of the top people was Sam Poston, and he lived next door at one time, then across the street. I'll tell you an interesting story that my brother told me, my older brother, that we were playing in the yard, and one of the bootleggers' customers came out and said, "Look at those little N-words. And he came out, the man who owned the house, and said, we don't have that kind of language around here. You're not going to talk about them like that. My brother remembers that, I do not. And also, they used to get forewarned when the police were coming to raid them, and would tell my grandmother, well, you better stay in the house because police are coming over this way. So that was, I guess, an interesting thing. But most of our neighbors were African Americans, you know, working people. A lot of people worked for the railroad, different jobs. You know, so growing up, I saw people working every day, taking care of their homes and property. So, you know, it was okay. We had fun playing outside. You don't see kids playing outside much today. We just go out in the yard and play and have a good time. Play with our neighbors. So now you have kids sitting inside on their devices. They're not outside playing unless they're driven by their parents to some kind of structured recreational event. So things have changed tremendously in that regard. So, but where we lived right across the street from the bus stop, so we could just catch the bus if we need to go downtown. And that was very convenient. And we lived on a busy street, East Vine Avenue, so it was interesting just sitting on the porch watching people go up down the street, either driving or walking. And we lived across from Tabernacle Baptist Church, and I actually watched that church be built. It was built when I was about 9. So it's fascinating to watch that church just go up from a vacant lot to what they have today. That was a fascinating thing to me as a little kid, just to see the church be built. So I think my neighborhood was a good neighborhood to live in. As I say, we was not any rich people, but you must remember during that time, in terms of real estate, most black people were relegated, so to speak, to certain areas. So you're going to have, in the area where I live, for example, I usually had a dentist, a minister, railroad workers, people, school teachers, they all are living same area. So you didn't have what you got now. Now, both of my brothers were born, we were all born at home. None of us born in hospital. They were born in Austin Homes. And Austin Homes had just opened. It was brand new. And by the time I was born, we had moved out to where I'm telling you now. So that's a little bit about, I guess, my
that's
background.
fascinating. So did that make for a different, how was the community dynamic different when you had professionals and working class people living together?
The big difference is you have young people who are seeing people on a daily basis going about their regular lives. And see, now it's more, I don't know what the word is, the way the housing patterns are, a lot of African-American professionals, they're going to be living out. They're not going to be living in, with the phrase inner city. They're not going to be in the inner city. So that's a big difference. But that was one of the positives. If you can find a positive in a segregated society, and I'm not wishing for those days to come back, but that is one of the positive aspects of it, because you see people, and then people know each other in terms of schools. Because your teachers, you see them pretty daily, and now kids grow up and they only going to see these teachers at school, and that's it, you know, because they don't live in the community that they live in. So that's a totally different situation than what we have today. Very different.
So then after desegregation, the urban renewal process, it sounds like it further fragmented.
Oh, definitely.
the African-American community.
No question about that. It did. I guess I need to clarify the time that I'm talking about, because I was born in 1945, Christmas Day.
Oh, you're a Christmas baby.
So the house that I'm talking about that my grandparents owned, I grew up in, and it was in 1966 before we had to move. So I need to put that
In context.
the time frame in there of where and how I grew up. So if you look at it, in 1954, that was a Supreme Court decision in May, Brown v. Board of Education, in May of 1954, and I was in the 3rd grade. Now, I graduated in 1963 from high school. There was no, it took years to start the integration process because the power structure didn't want to do that. So they said, well, maybe we'll do a grade a year, starting in the 1st grade. But I guess my point is, it was a long time before that Supreme Court decision was enforced. I had a classmate who became the first black graduate of Fulton. And he wanted to take drafting, as I recall. We did not have drafting at Austin. So he was allowed to come to Austin for a homeroom and then go to Fulton and finished his day there at Fulton. So I guess my point I'm trying to make is this: the enforcement of the Supreme Court decision took many years in this city and other cities. So that was not a good thing. If people just really did not follow the law, government bodies and people who were able to enforce these laws, they just resisted it. So, you know. But if you have now Austin High School, I always tell people, if I go somewhere, even right now, people just assume, oh, you graduated from Austin East. I'm like, no, I graduated from Austin High. You had Austin High and you had East High. So people don't put their history in context for some reason. And as I said earlier, Knoxville, Tennessee is no different from any other city in the South or Southeast. You had segregation. And I've talked to many people and they say, oh, I mean, it's like, where were you? Where's your mind? Or have you read, have you studied the history of America? And you got the same thing, really, in the North. You have the resegregation of schools now in most of our urban areas. So it's not that you just wanted to be able to sit beside Caucasians and African Americans. You want to get the best quality education that you can get for your children, which is very, very important. But if you look at, see, they have, Austin High has I think it's every 5 years, a reunion of everybody who graduated from there. Well, they include Austin East too, I think. But I don't think I know they include Austin East. So it's always a grand occasion for people to come back. And Robert Booker, I think, started that. And people from all over the country come back home and celebrate for 2 or 3 days. And we still have our high school reunions every 5 years.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's always a fun thing because everybody doesn't participate in that because a lot of people don't want to be reminded of their high school days. They're not interested in that, you know. But that's a little bit about the education of my background. And I remember when we, I guess I was in about the 5th grade, we went over to see the University of Tennessee play football. And we walked over from Eastport to University of Tennessee. Stopped downtown when they got some donuts and stuff at the bakery shop. Well, at that time, of course, University of Tennessee was also segregated. They didn't have any they didn't have any students. They didn't have any faculty. The only people working there of color were maybe as a janitor or something. So we went over and saw the football game. They played University of Dayton. They ran over them, something like 40-0. And you could sit and look out on Cumberland Avenue, because it hadn't been closed. It's not big as it is now. And look out and see the, but it was just a thrill to go over there. But we had to sit in a certain section. I think it was section O for African Americans. If you want to go to the football game, you had a certain section to sit in. And that's what we said. We saw Johnny Majors was on that team, great player, coach, and Buddy Cruz. I still remember those players because I looked up to those players. I'm a big sports fan. I tried to play, but I was a little bit too thin. Not like I am now. So, but looking back, that's some of my experiences growing up in Knoxville. But I guess you could say, growing up in Knoxville at that time, you were sort of in, I don't know, a secure area.
Yes, okay.
Got your own little world, so to speak. Not over here where we are in Parkridge. I didn't know that much about Parkridge because I didn't have a reason to come over in Parkridge, really. But you did have a black section of what's called now Parkridge, Chestnut Ridge. So if you talk to somebody who grew up in Chestnut Ridge, they could tell you about Chestnut Ridge because you had a black section, Chestnut Ridge. And these people, I hope you interview some people who grew up or former residents of Chestnut Ridge where they can share their experiences.
Yeah,
maybe some people still own property that's been passed down. I haven't done the research. Somebody did a paper on Parkridge and sent it to me. That's an excellent paper, a research paper on the history of this area. So
I would love to see that.
I think I still have it on my phone.
Okay.
It's gone to what I call email heaven. Maybe I can get it back.
Yeah.
And but it's excellent. I don't know if he was doing it on a master's thesis or just a research paper. But I think I can get it for you if you want to see it.
Yes, I would love it.
It's very good.
I would love to see it.
It's very good. The person did a lot of excellent research and historical research on this area. So
going back to what you were talking about, sitting in section O.
I think it was O. It might have been O. It might have been X. One of the two.
Yeah, or in the black section of the football stadium. Was it still Neyland Stadium at that time?
No,
or?
Shields Watkins Field.
Okay. How did that feel? Like, is that something that you were so used to that you stopped noticing
You
it?
didn't think about it.
Okay.
Didn't think about it because, as I just described to you, growing up, we're not going to anywhere like that anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't think twice about it. Only once you got older and look back and see how that was a mistreatment. But at the time, you're not thinking about that. You're just glad to be able to go and see the football game. So, plus you're a kid. You're an elementary kid. You're not thinking about that. You don't. That doesn't even stay with you. It's just something you look back on and look at the mistreatment that you were receiving here in your own city, where your parents are taxpayers, and you can't even go. Well, you can go to the game, but you got to sit in a certain place. Well, it was segregated anywhere, all around. That's hospitals, libraries, you name it, and that's all over the South and Southeast. So people, and when you talk about that now, people would say, well, how could you? Well, it was just part of life at that time. But thank goodness, I think, or I don't think, I know that you had adult people who were fighting that kind of thing.
Yes.
And they have always fought it.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement started when the first African person who was enslaved ran away. That's the beginnings of the movement in my looking at it. So you've always had a struggle for freedom. You're still struggling now.
Yeah.
you haven't really you achieved some great goals, but still struggle for freedom. you have to thank the adult people who really put their lives on the line because, you know, they talk about, for example, the Tennessee Theater. Well, when I was growing up, you couldn't go to the Tennessee Theater. We couldn't go to Riviera. You couldn't go. We had our own theater, the Gym Theater. If you go up to the Beck Center, you'll see some chairs.
I saw them.
From the Gym. And the Gym was an unusual theater because when you walk in the front. Most theaters, you're coming in from the rear. So if you were there with somebody that you weren't supposed to be there with, everybody going to see you when you walk in because they're right in the front. It's an unusual made theater. The Gym Theater on the corner of Vine and Central, which is now Summit Hill and Central.
Okay.
See, the interstate came through there and all this stuff. So you had several businesses through that area. And all this stuff is, I mentioned Booker a couple of times, but he's done so much research and published a lot of it. Then you have people who have pictures and stuff of those days, and I was a young person growing up with all of that.
So your high school was Austin High.
Austin High.
What elementary school?
Eastport.
Eastport. Where was that?
Eastport is on Bethel and McConnell.
Is it still there?
The building is still there, but it's now a senior center. Housing is an apartment. It's called the Residence of Eastport. So what they did was to build on to the school itself is still there, but well, I don't know if you've been through there or not or seen it, but it's been reconfigured, so to speak. That's the only way I can describe it. And so that's where I went.
Was there a middle school in between?
Yeah. But we didn't call it middle school. We called it Vine Junior.
Okay.
Junior high school. And that was Vine. Now, I got to let you know, Vine, where I went to, Vine Junior, it's now the Family Investment Center there on Martin Luther King. My high school, Austin, is where Vine Middle is now. That building was Austin High. The Family Investment Center was Vine Junior. So all of my schools were within a walking distance. They're just close. I didn't have to catch the bus, didn't have to be driven to school, none of that, just walk to school. First grade through the 12th grade, no problem. I remember my grandmother walked me to school for the first few days. And she said, well, you're on your own. You can make it from here. So all of our schools were close. You know?
Yeah.
But my brother, my older brother, Eastport only went, I think, to the 5th grade. And then they had to go to Green School for the 6th grade. Green Magnet is now. And by the time I got to the 6th grade, it went all the way through. We didn't have to do that. And then the kids over in Mechanicsville, they went to Beardsley Junior High. They went to the 10th grade. Then they had to come over to Austin. In fact, with kids all around, even from Sevierville, they had to come down here to Austin to go to school. So, you know, this is the way it was. So if you were African-American, you went to Austin High up until about, I think, 68 was the last graduating class. And Austin and Austin East were merged, I believe, in 69. So, you know, that's a number of years. That's almost 50 years. Is that right? Right at it. 2 years it will be 50. If I'm doing my arithmetic correct.
I think you're right.
Something close. So
50 or
that's why people, reporters and other people, it's been so long about Austin East, they just assume that I and others went to Austin East. And it's no problem, but they haven't really done their research. They haven't really looked at the history. So they just kind of accept what they see now without really studying it. So those are my schools, Eastport. But I actually started at Maynard in Mechanicsville for nursery school.
Oh,
Because
wonderful.
my aunt was the teacher there. So she took me there for nursery school. And later on, she became a first grade teacher there.
Awesome.
So I actually tell people I started my education at Maynard School out in Mechanicsville. Because then, when I was in school, you didn't have to go to kindergarten. Kindergarten was not mandatory.
Okay.
They had kindergarten for people if they want to go, but now it is mandatory. So I guess that's good.
Yeah.
Because you start earlier.
Oh, yeah.
I guess to have kindergarten experience and not just start in the first grade. Then you would be behind today. That's for sure.
You would, that's right. Yeah, one of the things that I want to do is create an interactive timeline where we'll have pictures and information about the different schools and, that were available at different points in time over
That
the
would be good.
course of Knoxville history, especially for someone coming from out of town. It's really
You have a different
confusing.
perspective.
Yeah,
And you're
I have a
looking at
blank
it.
slate.
Well, that's good. And as a case, but it has been documented because you have these books, and the Beck Center has a wealth of information. They have yearbooks. They have so much information and the East Tennessee Historical Historical Center. They have a very interesting information up there.
Yeah, I was looking at the Vine Junior Flash
Yeah.
yesterday at the
Yeah.
Beck Center. What are you in there?
Yes,
What year?
I'm in there. I was at Vine Junior from 1957 to 1960.
Okay.
And I am in the Vine Junior Flash.
Oh.
I was reading them myself not too long ago. And my name is in there a couple of times here and there. It's really a great resource. I'm glad. I was visiting the Beck when someone brought those papers up there to the late Avon Rollins, who was the director. I'm trying to remember who, somebody had saved them. And they also have papers from Beardsley. They had their paper.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of their paper. They also had a paper. But I'm in there, and I had forgotten at one point in time I was the sports editor. I forgot. I don't think it lasted too long because I've forgotten all about it. But my name is in there. It's really a fun thing to look at the Vine Junior Flash.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I hate to keep making comparisons between then and now and all this stuff, but I don't know if kids in middle school today have their own papers. Like, I'll just use, for example, Vine Middle now. I don't know if they have a paper. I should know.
I hope they do.
I hope they do too, because it was a great experience to write little articles and all this stuff, and then to look back on them now is really fun.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's really fun.
Absolutely.
Next time you go, you'll see me in there.
I'm gonna look for
in there.
you.
I'm
I'm
in
gonna
there.
look
You don't
for
have to
you.
really look, but I'm in there.
So what year did you graduate from?
From Vine,
Austin?
Austin, 63.
Okay, so I'll look at that yearbook too.
Yeah,
I
it's
learned a new word yesterday when I was
What was
looking
it?
at their sobriquet or sobriquet.
I don't
They
know that word.
it's a French word, but they used it, I think, to connote nicknames. So they had the names, the first name and last name of students, and then they had a column, sobriquets.
Super cats?
Sobriquets.
Sober cats. Was that in the yearbook?
It was in the yearbook, and it would be like, James would go by Joe, or like I guess the nickname.
Which particular yearbook, do you remember? What year?
I think it was probably in the later 60s, because I was trying to find mention of some of the boys that I knew were connected to that Park City Colt 45s, and they would have been in the minor league.
Was this the baseball team?
Yeah. they would have been playing as 8 or 9-year-olds in 63 and 64. So I tried to look at the yearbooks from like 67, 68.
Well, you were looking at the Austin High yearbooks?
Yeah, I think they were the Austin
Okay.
High yearbooks.
Well, they would have to be,
Okay.
because that's all they have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they also have Austin East.
Okay, it may have been Austin East.
I think they have Austin East
Yeah.
yearbooks and Austin. They also have Knoxville College yearbooks.
Yes.
And those are very, very, very interesting
Mm-hmm.
yearbooks to have. I have at home, my grandmother graduated from Austin in 1905,
Oh my.
and I have her diploma. It's really big,
Mm-hmm.
but it really doesn't say Austin. It just has her name in 1905, and I have her, it's a little small, it's a little program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it lists the names of the people who graduated in 1905. And my grandmother gave a speech. Different people gave different speeches.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her subject was gallantry, if I'm not mistaken.
Gallantry?
Gallantry.
Okay.
When I used to tell Avon Rollins about it, he said, we need to donate to the back. I'm like, no, I'm going to keep it here at home so that I can look at it when I want to look at it. And it goes to the back. I may donate it after I'm gone, but
Yeah.
I'll keep it. Because, and I also have her class ring
Mm-hmm.
from 1905.
Uh-huh.
So I have this connection. My grandmother graduated in 1905 from Austin.
Mm-hmm.
My mother in 1934 from Austin. My oldest brother in 59, my other brother in 61, and me in 63. So we have this long connection
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to Austin High School.
It's beautiful.
So,
And was it the same building all those years?
no,
Okay.
no. They had, I think there's been about 4 locations
Okay.
of Austin High School. I think it was on Central when my grandmother graduated, and what I was describing to you of when I went to Vine Junior at one time, I think that was Austin High. Then the building where Vine Middle is now, I think it was built in the early 50s or mid-50s or somewhere like that. But all that information is there at the back.
Mhm.
They've had about, and the person who started Austin, Miss Emily Austin, a white woman. I won't say from Massachusetts.
I think,
somewhere who
yeah,
came here and
somewhere from
started
the
school.
Northeast. I think I did read that at the Knox County Museum of Education.
Oh, yeah, it's a great place over there. I haven't really, I've been over there for a couple of events, but not to really look stuff up. My grandmother, her middle name was Austin. I wonder if she was named after this lady. I don't know.
Yeah. Do you think she may have been taught by her?
No,
Or at
because
some
the
point?
Austin High started around, I want to say 1879, something like that. So I don't think so. Oh, well, actually, I'm pretty sure not, because the little pamphlet I have, it lists all the teachers
I
in
see.
05.
Okay.
Emily Austin was not
Was
listed.
not
No,
listed.
she was not listed in there at all. So I'm just glad to have that. It's just stuff that's kind of just passed
It
in
sounds
the family.
wonderful.
It's just
Yeah.
there, and so
Yeah.
that
You're
wound up with
lucky.
me.
You're lucky to have it.
Oh yeah. It's
Yeah.
very interesting stuff to look at.
Yeah.
My grandmother, she played the piano. I don't know where she learned to play the piano, but she played the piano, and she was very interested in education. So it's like my mother and father met at Tennessee A&I State in Nashville. So then my father wound up moving here to Knoxville, and they renewed their acquaintance and all this stuff and got married. So, but that's where they met, at A&I. Then I wound up going to A&I, and my brother went to A&I. So we got this long connection with A&I,
Yeah.
well, Austin and A&I. So,
Yeah. So
you know.
A&I, is that Tennessee State?
Yeah,
Okay.
see, it was changed. They dropped the A&I around 68.
So what did A&I stand for?
Agricultural and industrial.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. There was, in 68, they changed it and just made it Tennessee State University. It was Tennessee A&I State College for many, many years until the 60s. And so they changed it later on, made it Tennessee, just Tennessee State. So we got that connection. Whenever I give little talks, I say, well, my mother and father met at Tennessee A&I, so I'm thankful for Tennessee.
Yes, of course. If
college.
not for them.
They might not have met, but they may have met later. Because my father moved here as an insurance salesman for Universal Life Insurance Company. So they may have met anyway.
Yes.
But they had already met.
Yeah.
So
that probably got him a step ahead of the...
Well, my mother said there were two. He came with another gentleman, Mr. Sinclair, and Mr. Lewis Sinclair. They came together with the Universal Life. They came from the Mississippi district. So my father had been assigned to that district. So my mother said, there was two eligible bachelors that came to town. She said, I already knew one of them.
That is precious.
So she had a little input already, I guess you could say.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody's ever asked or if you've thought about what would you want to see in East Knoxville, in what used to be Park City, your neighborhood, happening in the next 50 or 100 years?
Well, that's a very good and interesting question that requires some thought. I like to see some stable housing, not so much emphasis on public housing, but stable housing that people from all walks of life, so to speak, professional, non-professional, would want to live there. That'd be what I would like to see. Because you don't really have any new housing, with the exception of public housing being built. It's not happening. But it would be wonderful if it did happen. And then when people who are professionals move to Knoxville, they come to teach at the university, they're working at what if they're at Oak Ridge, they're usually going to live at Oak Ridge, but whatever. And real estate people will say, let me show you how some wonderful houses right here, because actually you have some beautiful homes all along Linden, Parkview. Now that area, when I was growing up, all that was white area. You didn't have black people living on Linden, Parkview either. They're all on East Vine Avenue. But you got some beautiful brick homes that just gone into disrepair over the years. So these could be renovated and some new housing start being built. That's what I would like to see, because if you give people moving in who have disposable income, you're also going to be followed by some businesses. But I was asked a question about that on a TV show that's coming up, be seen probably tomorrow, about that. So it's like a chicken and the egg, you know. You have beautiful homes that are going down, but you're not getting people coming in to move into these homes and fix the homes up, and there's no new subdivisions being built. The only new housing is habitat housing and public housing. That's it. You don't have, I can't think of any new subdivisions being built. I don't know if they will be built in the quote-unquote inner city. I don't know if that would happen, but that would be something I would like to see happen. And definitely some businesses. We in great need of that, particularly in Burlington, what's called downtown Burlington. We really need that, so maybe it'll happen one day.
Was Burlington part of Park City, or did it not go that far?
No, Burlington had its position. Not in my, that's my interpretation of
Yeah.
it, geographically
I
speaking.
see.
I would not include Burlington in Park City.
So-
I wouldn't, but maybe if you looked at somebody on MPC or somebody who studies these things, maybe part of it is.
But that's still East Knoxville,
Yeah, it is
Burlington?
East Knoxville,
Okay.
definitely, yeah, it's definitely East Knoxville.
Is there an essential quality of East Knoxville?
In
That-
terms of,
Like, you know how New Orleans has a
Oh.
sort of essence,
Yeah.
and DC and some parts of Atlanta like have different sort of spirits.
yeah,
Like, how would you describe the qualities of East Knoxville, Park City,
Well-
as you've seen it develop over the years?
that's an interesting question. You've asked me some very thoughtful questions. And I have to really put on my thinking cap to think of. I see what you're saying. What is it known for? What has it been known for
Yeah.
through the years? That's I don't really know. That's a hard question for me to answer. In other words, what is unique about it that it stands out through the years?
I've been looking at
That's-
information, for instance, about Cal Johnson
Yeah.
and how he comes from, he was like born in
He's born in
slavery,
slavery.
was a self-made man
Yeah.
that was like of this part of town. And that I think he was at some point the richest black man.
That's what they say. I think it said he was the first black millionaire. But your question that you just asked, that's such a good question, and I just don't have, well, it would seem like I would have an answer, boom, off the bat of what East Knoxville has been known for. But East Knoxville has gone through the changes, as I described earlier, because of the demographics.
Yes,
If
yeah.
you go to the history, you're going to find it shifted completely. Now, I noticed when I looked at the deed, when my grandparents bought this house on East Vine Avenue, at one point in time, it was known as the Rutledge Pike Addition. The Rutledge Pike is on out in East Knox County. So I'd have to really go and look and see if at one point that was Rutledge Pike, what, but that's why it's difficult for me to give, describing East Knox because it's changed so much. The demographics of it and the shifting from, most of the African-American neighborhoods were around downtown, east of downtown. That's where your churches, your businesses, your homes grew. Then when the urban renewal just shifted further. And then you had, not to repeat myself, the white flight. So you're going to have, it's hard to describe
Yeah.
actually,
Yeah.
for something that is really known for, or what I do whenever I'm asked about East Knoxville, I try to speak on the positive things. And right now, we're experiencing all of these shootings, homicide, but it's going on South Knoxville, North Knoxville, it's all around. It's all around the city. So I don't ever want to talk publicly, and I don't know who's going to see this tape one day, of the negative things that
Yeah.
people look at and talk about. You got so many positive things.
Yeah,
You
there
have
are
so many
positive things.
decent, honest, hard-working people all around, and now you almost have an image of East Knoxville. Oh, it's just crime infested. And that's not the case.
No.
And that's just not good. I can't blame it all on the media, but certainly a good portion of it, because I've noticed through the years something can happen, some kind of crime, and they'll say, oh, it's in East Knoxville. It may be out of East Knox County. It may not even be in East
Yes,
Knoxville.
yes, of
They've
course.
done that for years. And that's just a lack of knowledge on the parts of reporters. Many of them are young, they haven't done the research, and they just really don't know.
Exactly.
So, but that sends out a bad image, and you're not going to get anybody to move in or to buy a home. But while I said that, you're getting, that is happening because you got demographics are changing. And that's where people worry about people who ordinarily were able to live in a certain area. Then it's time, and that ain't just here in Knoxville, it's certainly in D.C.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a perfect example.
How about, so as an outsider, one way I think about East Knoxville is in terms of the landmarks, like Chilhowie Park, and, but how about the idea of a melting pot?
That is a good idea.
And
in a way that you have that, especially in this particular area, since we're in Parkridge, it's a kind of a melting pot.
Because in talking to you, you mentioned having, you know, the white neighbor who was unfortunately the bootlegger, white neighbors across the street and next door.
But they were the same, one and the same.
Okay.
They just moved from the side of the across the street. They're one and the same.
Okay, all right. And I think one of your first job was with a Jewish grocer?
No,
Or-
they were not a grocery. They were drapery and a upholstery shop. So I guess you could call that, I don't know what you call it, is drapery. That business is still in existence.
Yeah.
It's just not downtown anymore.
Yeah.
It's on paper mill. But they were not grocery. So grocery. So draperies, all that stuff.
So how would you, if I ask you to finish the sentence, East Knoxville is a melting pot because, how would you finish that?
I would say because of economics. Because of the availability of some quality housing that is affordable for people who are looking for starter homes, and that makes it a melting pot. Of course, when you look at East Knoxville, you don't have to look at all of East Knoxville and not a certain section of East Knoxville. You got several little neighborhoods in East Knoxville. But that would be my answer. Economics, that would make it a melting pot. Because people are, well, you have some families or people who probably have lived in East Knoxville for generations, and they're still there. But then you also have the flight. So that would be my answer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't try to expound on that. Just leave it.
That was perfect.
I'll leave it. That would be it.
I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed.
Well, you've asked some interesting questions. Once you make tapes, you never
I'm
know
gonna.
who's going to see it or where they're going. But I think it's been good. I thank you for inviting me to do this. It's been fun.
It
It's been
has.
enjoyable.
Oh
So
my goodness.
I hope it'd be helpful somewhere along the line for somebody. And I'll probably think of something I left out. But you've asked just about everything that you talked about growing up in East Knoxville, education system, and I think we've covered just
We
about a lot
have.
of
We
stuff.
can always have a part two.
We can have
Or
a part
or an
two.
encore.
Yes, we can do that. If you ask me, I'll probably say yes.
Yes.
Because I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Mayor
your-
Brown.
Thank you for your questions.